Hey, watch. Just this past year at Christmas time, when my Legion post raised $750 for a young active duty service member in the Navy who had transferred from the reserves to active duty, and in the process, the Navy messed her paycheck up. And she was 3.5 months between paychecks before her active duty check was going to start coming in. And she was in the process of falling further and further behind on her bills, and her CO found out about it from a friend. He came to us, he said, we need to help her. We paid $750 worth of bills for her. We gave her kids a huge Christmas. We gave them Christmas dinner. We gave her grocery cards for several different stores to make sure she could buy groceries for a while. The American Legion does so much more than just have a place where you can go drink and hang out. So if you haven't checked your local Legion post out, look it up. Anywhere in the U.S., I guarantee you there's one within a few miles, unless you live in Montana, in which case it...
Right, it's never been easier.
But
if you
here's...
know somebody, get their shit together.
Here's one thing to keep in mind, though. 80% of the people, 8 out of 10 people who apply for disability with the VA get turned down the first time. The reason they get turned down is because of a piece of paperwork that is not filed correctly. So what I will do, you email me somebody that you know needs help getting disability or needs help filling out paperwork for the VA, email me. Get in touch with me, and I will connect you with somebody from Wounded Warrior Project or one of the other organizations that I work with who will put you in touch with somebody local to your area that can help that person fill out the paperwork that they need. And these are people who have gone through classes to make sure that they know exactly how the paperwork should be taken care of. Citizenship is also a reason for being turned down, even if you serve. I can't remember the name of the bill that they overturned. It used to...
We, the people. We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We, the people, are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast. Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. We, the people, are free. This belief has been the underlying basis for everything I've tried to do these past 8 years. But back in the 1960s, when I began, it seemed to me that we'd begun reversing the order of things. That through more and more rules and regulations and confiscatory taxes, the government was taking more of our money, more of our options, and more of our freedom. I went into politics in part to put up my hand and say, stop. I was a citizen politician, and it seemed the right thing for a citizen to do. I think we have stopped a lot of what needed stopping, and I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited. And informed patriotism is what we want. And are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents in the long history of the world? Those of us who are over 35 or so years of age grew up in a different America. We were taught very directly what it means to be an American. And we absorbed almost in the air a love of country and an appreciation of its institutions. If you didn't get these things from your family, you got them from the neighborhood, from the father down the street who fought in Korea, or the family who lost someone at Anzio. Or you could get a sense of patriotism from school. And if all else failed, you could get a sense of patriotism from the popular culture. The movies celebrated democratic values and implicitly reinforced the idea that America was special. TV was like that too, through the mid-60s. But now we're about to enter the 90s, and some things have changed. Younger parents aren't sure that an unambivalent appreciation of America is the right thing to teach modern children. And as for those who create the popular culture, well-grounded patriotism is no longer the style. Our spirit is back, but we haven't re-institutionalized it. We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, and freedom is special and rare. It's fragile. It needs production. So we've got to teach history based not on what's in fashion, but what's important. Why the Pilgrims came here, who Jimmy Doolittle was, and what those 30 seconds over Tokyo meant. If we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. I'm warning of an eradication of the American memory that could result ultimately in an erosion of the American spirit. Let's start with some basics. More attention to American history and a greater emphasis on civic ritual. And let me offer lesson number 1 about America. All great change in America begins at the dinner table. So tomorrow night in the kitchen, I hope the talking begins. And children, if your parents haven't been teaching you what it means to be an American, let them know and nail them on it. That would be a very American thing to do. And so, goodbye, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
All right. Hope everybody's doing well today. I will be joined shortly by my partner, Patriotic Veteran. We had a little bit of an issue that prevented us from going live at our scheduled time of 6 o'clock, but I think we got everything sorted out now. He should be joining me here shortly. Hope everybody had a good week. I know that I have had a busy week. Been really swamped with getting stuff done around the house and getting some stuff caught up for work as well. And I am producing again tonight, so any technical difficulties go straight to me. It's my fault. Still learning how to push buttons. One day I'll be a pro streamer, but not today. So we have a good show lined up for you tonight. We've got some interesting topics we're going to talk about. And like I said, Patriotic should be joining me here shortly. Let me check and see if he is ready yet. He should be jumping on here in just a minute. Um, so just a little anecdote about my week. It pays to be nice to police officers. Hey, I hear Patriotic coming in there. There he comes. It pays to be nice to police officers. So earlier today, I was on my way home from work and I pulled a bonehead move. I needed to talk to my dad about something, so I grabbed my phone, after I got off the interstate and got onto the back country roads. I grabbed my phone, picked it up, dialed my dad, and I'm holding it to my ear talking to him. And, I'm a careful driver. I'm doing under the speed limit. Just driving the backcountry roads headed home. And this black SUV pulls out of a side road, or actually he came up an on ramp coming off of interstate here, and jumped onto the road that I was on and just flew up behind me. And I'm like, man, he is really crowding me. But I didn't think much about it. I went about a mile down the road, put my turn signal on to turn right, and volume up for me. Let's see. Um, I think that is about as loud as I dare take it. That's pushing it right to the red. Hopefully that sounds a little better. But anyways, I turned my turn signal on, make my right turn into the area that I lived in. And as I made the turn, the whole front end of that vehicle lit up with blue flashing lights. And I told my dad, I was like, crap, I gotta go. I'm getting pulled over. And he goes, okay, let me know what happens. So the sheriff's deputy gets out of the unmarked vehicle that he had driven up to where I was at. And he said, you mind if I get your license and registration, please? I said, no, sir, not at all. I said, here's my license, here's my registration. He said, I pulled you over because when you passed me, you had your cell phone up. And then when you went to turn, your turn signal's not working. And I was like, oh, man. I said, okay, well, I apologize for being on my phone. I know it's not something I should be doing. And I know that, that generally doesn't end well for the person on the phone. Handed him my license, my registration, and was scrambling through my phone to find the picture of my insurance ID card. He said, I'll be right back. I'm going to run your license. And he came walking back up to the car about 5 minutes later. And I told him, I said, look, I said, I'm really sorry for being on the phone. I shouldn't have. Uh, I said, but if you got to write me a ticket, go ahead and we'll get it over with and I'll let you go on and do your job. I really appreciate what you guys do for a living. And he said, no, he said, I'm not going to write you a ticket for that or the tail light. He said, you don't have anything on your driving record. You're not a bad driver, obviously, because you have tickets on your record. He said, so all I'm going to do is just tell you, don't pick up your phone again, get you a Bluetooth headset, and go get you a light bulb for your tail light. And so I managed to walk away from that unscathed. So it pays to be nice to police officers, folks. Be respectful when you get pulled over. And you're not always going to get off without a ticket, but be respectful anyways. There's my partner. What's up, Patriotic? Oh, hold on. Hold on. I think you're muted in guest star, maybe? I have no audio from you in guest star. Your microphone's not muted on my end. Let's see. Nope, I got no audio from you, buddy. Let me make sure. Yep, that's set correctly. Make sure that that's set. Okay, that's all set correctly. I should be able to hear you. This is a great way to start the stream. Nope, I still got nothing. You sure you're unmuted on your end? Got the right microphone checked? If nothing else, we can use Discord. Nope, I got nothing. This is wonderful. Let's see if we can fix that. All right. Let's see.
Can you hear me in Discord?
I can hear you in Discord.
Yeah, I'm getting you twice now. Now it says my mic is on. There's off. There's on.
Okay, I can mute my mic there. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is our stream going to capture those voices?
Yes, it should. Let me double check and make sure that you're pinging my desktop audio here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
I hear you anyway.
Yep, I got you as well. So now we've got both of us on audio. And guys, this is just a classic example of two guys running a stream who are still learning what we're doing. But you know what?
This is why you don't wait to the last minute to do shit whenever you ain't good at what you're doing yet.
We both had a crazy week. So How's your day been?
Hectic as hell, man.
I hear you.
Yours?
Yep, about the same. I had to get out of the house early this morning, go take some pictures of some houses, and then I get to the house and the lady doesn't meet me there who's supposed to meet me there, so I take pictures of the outside. She's like, I'll be there in 15 minutes. Then she's like, well, I'm not coming, and I'm like, well, I got a contract here you got to sign, I need to get that to you. She's like, okay, bring it to my house. So I go to her house where she lives, knock on the door, can't get an answer, call her phone. I'm like, hey, I'm at your house. She's like, okay, just put it in the mailbox. I'm like, but I got to get you to sign it. She goes, well, I'm not there right now. Why would you tell me to
Heck
come
yeah.
to your house? So, but in the end, I just dropped it in the mailbox, called the boss, told him what was going on. He's like, yeah, just leave it there. She can sign it, get it back to us later. He said, honestly, she's one of the hardest people I've ever dealt with as far as getting her to meet somebody. So he said it is what it is. So yeah, hectic day today. How's your week been? What'd you do this week?
Hectic. Good. We just did a lot of research, honestly, this week, trying to get some stuff put together. Sorry, I'm cleaning my desk here. I have not been on my computer in 2 days, basically, but trying to get some stuff put together for the show here. Some good stuff. Like I don't just want to piece together a basic, PowerPoint presentation. I would like to actually get a nice, smooth video put together for a guy I'm trying to honor. Got a couple irons in the fire with that. I did get a text message back from my brigadier general today.
Oh, that's good.
Hamster, frig off.
Hamster, I appreciate the offer of promotion, but obviously we're promoted enough. You found us. So if one of my mods could take care of that, please. One of our mods.
But yeah, my general. Remember we talked about that I contacted my brigadier general from whenever I was in Iraq. He sent me a message back today and said, absolutely, you can get a hold of me anytime you want. Here's my phone number.
Oh, nice. Well, I got a message back today too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it didn't go as well as that one, but it wasn't a bad message either. So Mr. Foxworthy's publicist got back with me. He has a new publicist now from the one that he had when I first messaged him. I guess he's changing staff. And she let me know that right now they're not in a position where they're really wanting to do a lot of interviews, but she said she would definitely keep us in mind and follow the show and keep us in mind for a later interview. So that'll be pretty neat if that happens. I'd be down to sit Mr. Jeff Foxworthy down and learn what it means to be a redneck.
Heck yeah.
So I know that we have several topics on the table this evening, and one that you brought up just before stream that I think we should definitely cover is Operation Iraqi Freedom. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of that. Why don't you tell us a little about that? You're much better versed in that than I am.
Well, pretty self-explanatory, right? Operation Iraqi Freedom. That's where it was part of the response to the 9/11 attacks. 2003, let's see, March 20th, 2003, deployed 70,000 ground troops and 15,000 ships to the Middle East for what would be called Operation Iraqi Freedom, or OIF. Did a bunch of airstrikes on Saddam's palace and a bunch of other military targets. That was I really liked the way that George Bush did that, because I remember not exactly how it went, but in my mind, how it went was he did a conference, right, and said, "Hey, Iraq, we want you guys to demilitarize, stop funding terrorism, stop, selling arms, blah blah blah. You got 48 hours." And then like 24 hours later, he started dropping bombs. I thought that was pretty slick.
Yeah.
That made me proud. But
if you're gonna make a threat, carry it out.
I just like how he didn't get in the full time. He got tired of waiting. He's like, "Oh, what's this red button do?" Whoops. But according to the Department of Defense, nearly 4,500 U.S. military personnel were killed in the Iraq War and 32,000 wounded. The VA estimates that of the Iraq and Afghanistan War, there are 3.6 million veterans from those two operations. Obviously, a lot of which are from the Iraq War. Most people, not most, I said a lot of people went to both theaters. So
Right.
That includes both.
I
But
know.
go ahead.
I was reading up just on some of the. I don't know that I would use the word famous, but some of the people of note during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and one name kept popping up: Michael A. Mansour, U.S. Navy Master at Arms, second class. He was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor in 2006, 29th of September in 2006. He was a member of a combined SEAL and Iraqi sniper overwatch element that was tasked with providing early warning and standoff protection. And he distinguished himself with exceptional bravery during an early morning attack. Just an incredible story. So I would definitely encourage anybody that enjoys learning um, not just basic military history about a branch or a particular battle, but actually learning about a person on a personal level. Look up the name Michael A. Mansour. The last name is Monsoor. Some very interesting reading available about him on the web. He was a pretty tough cookie.
I think I've heard that name. I wonder if he's one of the guys on that TV show Medal of Honor.
He might be. He might be.
Yeah, I watched a few episodes of that. That's a pretty good one
I'll tell
out
you,
there.
I don't know, since you served in Afghanistan, and I don't know, I think you are and I are probably very similar in our taste on movies. But I know a lot of guys who've served in Iraq or Afghanistan, they don't really care to watch movies about those places for two reasons. Either A, it brings back a lot of bad memories, or B, they're so inaccurate that it just makes them want to punch the director in the face.
That's mine. The first one that came out that I remember after I had been in combat was Hurt Locker. My buddies are like, "Oh, we got to go see this movie. It's about Iraq and whatever." And it's like we rented it, and like 20 minutes in, I'm just like, first of all, we're not disarming bombs with humans on the side of the road. Like we
Right.
got robots for that, okay? But
Well, my
it's that,
daughters are
yeah,
like
like the,
that.
the 2 points you said is right. Is inaccuracy, and then it's not only that it's not like guaranteed that guys are gonna have flashbacks or whatever, but it's the fear of, right? Like
Right.
I think I'm a pretty stable veteran. I pretty generally have my head on straight. Um, but I would sure hate to watch a movie of Iraq or Afghanistan or something similar, even like Black Hawk Down or something, and get triggered, like not know I have a trigger and then find it because of the stupid movie. I'd be so pissed that if my
Yeah.
stability was compromised because of a movie. So I just tend to steer away from for those two reasons you stated.
Right. I know I watched one earlier this year. Actually, it might have been before Christmas now that I think about it. It's called The Outpost. And I did some research on it before. See, when I go watch a war movie, the first thing I look for is accuracy. I find military guys who validate that the movie is, for as far as movies go, fairly close to the true story. And I don't like fantasy movies. I like stuff that's, real historical fact and gives me something that I can learn from. But I found this movie called The Outpost, and it had really good reviews. A true story, and if I remember right, if I get the statistics correctly, it's the only battle in modern history, other than World War II, where two living soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor. Story of a unit sent to Afghanistan, and they were at an outpost that was in the process of closing down. And of course, you've been there, so very little happens on a military outpost that the locals don't figure out or know something about, and things just went really south for them. It was a sad movie, um, but it was a true movie that showed some true courage in the face of adversity. And the one thing I liked about it is it wasn't all blown out of proportion like superhero soldiers kind of thing. It was just guys doing their job.
Yeah,
This guy's hurt. We're gonna get him to safety. It wasn't a miracle, or I can't believe that he could actually do that superhuman strength, to get that thing done, whatever it might be. It was all very real to life stuff that you could see a guy do in the workplace, in order to accomplish a task. It was believable. And that's one thing that I appreciate about movies like that. Now, Operation Iraqi Freedom, that was 20 years ago. Now, was the latter end of that when you were in the military, or did that happen? Did that all take place before you went to active duty?
The latter end of what?
Operation Iraqi Freedom.
That ended in 2012, I want to say, officially. Let's see here. On December 15th, 2011, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff observed the official end. So I was in Iraq in 2005 and 2006.
So you were right in the
OIF,
middle of it.
yeah, OIF 3 was whenever I got there. The third iteration of soldiers.
Right. That's a long time. We've had boots
Yeah, I
on the
was
ground.
out of the military by the time that ended.
Wow. So, you look at places like Iraq, Afghanistan, places where we had boots on the ground for 2+ decades, in some cases 4 decades, we had active boots on the ground. And, people from my perspective, we tend to forget the soldiers come and go. Every so many years, the military kind of begins to roll over, at least from the guys who aren't in for a 20-year career. And so, you take a place like Iraq, where we went in what, 1991 the first time, 92, somewhere right around there, George Bush Sr.
91, I'm pretty sure.
I think it was 91 was when we went in. So 91 to 21 is 30 years. In that 30 years time, if you took an average enlistment of 6 years, you had 5 generations of soldiers that served in that one place over a 30-year period. And I use the word generation. I'm not talking about like father sons, but like, okay, this group goes in and say they're fresh out of boot camp. They go to Iraq and they spend 6 years, rotating in and out. Well, at the end of that 6 years, they're out, and the guys who come into boot camp right then, that's right. But the thing is, it doesn't really even tell the story then, because you have guys every couple of months rotating in and out of the military. So that I can't imagine how many actual boots on the ground we had during that 30-year period.
Yeah.
How many did
Millions,
you say
right?
were deployed?
The VA estimates that there were 3.6 million veterans from the post 9/11 era.
Right.
So that would be after the September 11th attacks, people who served a consecutive 180 days in support of an operation.
Wow.
Is a veteran. It has to be 180 days consecutive service. The Persian Gulf, it says here that we were invaded Kuwait on August 2nd, 1990. And then so we would have been in Iraq in 91 probably.
Right. That's it's just a long time, and I know I've talked to guys that have been in both places, some of them multiple times in both places, and a lot of them say that they prefer Iraq to Afghanistan. They said at least in Iraq it's hot, and it's hot. In Afghanistan, you might be sweating one day and then get moved somewhere, and the next day your coffee's freezing in the cup before you can get back to your hutch.
Well, you've seen some of my pictures from Afghanistan. I mean, some days we're out there in Under Armour t-shirts and cutoffs, and in the next picture I'm wrapped up in the warmest shit the military can give me.
Right. Wishing it was a little warmer, no doubt.
And I don't know if it's true or not, but while we were in Afghanistan, there's no trees. Like there's literally hardly any trees, and we were told, like I said, I'm not sure if it's true, but we were told that when the Russians were there in the 70s, that they brought in all their like bulldozer tanks and cleared trees like 300 yards in each direction of the road so they'd stop getting ambushed. That's why there was no trees.
It's probably true.
And that makes for a very windy place. Like I remember one day it was like 40 degrees, but with like a 60-mile-an-hour wind.
Oh man,
I don't know what the wind chill comes out to, but it's terrible. Like 40 degrees ain't that cold, but you throw a 60-mile-an-hour wind, you can't hear nothing. Your mics are popping. It's terrible.
I've been in the high plains of New Mexico in the wintertime, and man, it gets rough out there. You get 5 feet of snow on the ground. There's no trees. You got some mountains to the north, but they're so far north that they're not blocking wind for you. It's it gets pretty cold. I can't imagine being in a combat situation.
Let's talk about these pictures. I like your background there. A little bit of the Constitution. It looks like.
Right. Well, we can go ahead and move into that if you want to. We can roll.
I just noticed you changed your picture this week, and I like that. I changed mine too. You see my Gadsden snake over here?
I did. I like it.
Just a little buddy hanging off to the side there.
Right. Well, I chose the Constitution from my background, and I don't know if I'll keep it next week or not, but we'll see. I want to be spending some time looking at the Constitution each week. We are not going to take as much time as we did last week. I think we'll just take smaller bites. That way we can get a little better information and not spend so much time just reading through it. I kind of felt
Yep.
like I did as a kid when my dad would make me sit down and read the Bible. Now I actually enjoy that because I actually learned some things from it. But as a 12-year-old kid, I was like, man, this is drier than cornbread right here, you know?
I bet you I can count the books I've read from front to back on two hands in my entire life. I'm talking all through school, all through everything.
Let's see. Army Boot Camp Manual.
Nope.
Didn't read that one either.
Game 16 maintenance manual. Nope.
So,
Most of them are little more books. They're like, an inch thick.
right. See, I like to read. My wife does too. Matter of fact, when we met, I was driving trucks, and she lived in Texas, and I lived in Alabama. And I would call her when I would park the truck at night, and I would read to her on the phone until she fell asleep. Sometimes 3, 4 hours. And I read in the truck. I read probably
Well,
15.
sometimes listening to you talk puts me to sleep. I get it.
I read probably 15 books to her in that time, and most of them were an inch and a half, 2 inches thick. They were, they were big books. We read classics, old Shakespeare and stuff like that. Even
Can she read?
she can,
Oh, okay.
but she liked that I would read to her, and so I would read to her till she fell asleep.
Story time with Cowboy,
Story
huh?
time with Cowboy, heck yeah.
You ever been to a truck stop that had a hot tub in it?
Yep.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Sure have.
Oh boy.
So
So I picked the Gadsden snake because I believe that whenever it was, I don't know if you know any of the history behind it. I'm not 1,000% sure on the history behind it, but I know the Navy started flying it on their ships. Simply, don't tread on me. Like, I'm a snake. I'm gonna bite you. You come over here. About to find out. But I kind of feel like we're circling back to those times. You know what? We left a monarchy, declared independence in 1776, but then now I feel like today we're kind of circling back to a monarchy. I mean, yeah, we get to elect the guy that's running everything, but I feel like we're getting like what we talked about before, taxation without representation. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of representation.
Nope.
I feel like our representatives in our capitals, whether it be state or my state's terrible, or federal, I think they do a whole lot to benefit themselves. I guess like politics is a career path. I don't like that. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like
Yep.
they want to advance their career, and that it's always at the cost of the taxpayer.
Yeah, it's not a responsibility or a calling anymore.
Did you see my Facebook post the other day?
Which one? I see most of them.
I don't post much, so it's got to be recent. I'm gonna find it here. It's like my second to last one, I think.
And, for those who would argue that you are being represented, there's proof that you are being taxed without representation. Just walk out front of your house, find the nearest pothole to your driveway. There's a little bit of proof for you right there.
Yep. So 3 days ago, I posted your U.S. Senate met for their first session. Here's the official log from their meeting. Because remember last week we talked about the Congressional Journal?
Mm-hmm.
I went and looked it up. So I got their minutes.
Nice.
Friday, March 10th, 2023. Daily Digest, Senate Chamber Action is how it's titled, right? The Senate met at 9:30, 25 seconds a.m. in pro forma session and adjourned at 9:30, 50 seconds a.m. until 3 p.m. on Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. And then I added on there, you read that right. Your Senate met for 25 seconds to give themselves a 4-day weekend and a 3 p.m. start today. Don't tolerate empty seats at your expense. And then I put that picture of there, the empty Senate chambers.
I am in the wrong line of work.
Yeah. They literally met for 25 seconds. Hey, who wants to go home today? Yay. All right. See y'all Tuesday. Like, what the hell? I couldn't believe. Then they had a 3 o'clock start time, which means they only had an hour's worth of work to do.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep watching those. I might
You tell
See if I
me
can find
why
that.
our House and our Senate only needs to meet for 25 seconds, then get a 4-day weekend. You tell me how they fixed all the problems in America, because the last I saw, there were still underfunded police departments, there were still underfunded schools, there was still a massive debt deficit that hasn't been cured and cared for. So I'm trying to figure out how a 4-day weekend solved anything for any of us.
I
I mean,
think if they were paid in two different ways, I came up with this idea a long time ago. Probably wouldn't no one to go for it. Probably wouldn't work because there's too many people who've they're career politicians. You know, they don't want to lose their paycheck because they don't have another a path to choose. You know,
right.
most of them can't fall back on any workplace experience. But government officials shouldn't be paid. And I'm not talking about like your local county road commissioner. You know, those guys need a paycheck because they do your gravel and whatever. But I'm talking about like presidents, governors, congressmen, all that stuff. They should not get a paycheck. How they know if they did a good job or not? Because their constituents will donate them money. If you got a guy in office for your state who's really ramming the rod of freedom, right? Really, you're like, man, I love this dude. You gonna send him $20? I would.
Yeah.
Like that's how they should get paid.
I have no problem with it getting a federal paycheck. I think it ought to be completely against the law for them to accept monetary or solid assets from companies and lobbyists.
From businesses, I agree.
I think that, because if a police officer goes out and starts accepting free lunch from a company, a restaurant, that police officer gets in trouble and can lose his job. It's against the rules for them to do that.
Yep.
Why should our politicians be any different than our police officers? You know?
It's
I
weird.
mean, there's some are above the law, I guess.
I'll tell you why. It's because we put up with it. That's why.
Truth.
Somewhere in that document behind you there, it says that the people should always have the right to overthrow the government, right? Like, like after you, how did you say it? Like when you said you voiced their displeasures, you always have the right to
You have the
approach your
right
government
to
with,
redress grievances, to
yeah,
bring a
that.
grievance. Yep.
If that don't work, what's your other right?
Your right is
And
to remove them from office, and it states it very plainly.
very plainly. But
In fact, I believe it says that it is not only the right but the duty.
duty, I believe you might be right. Maybe we can get into that sometime.
We'll have
Hopefully
to
we read
dig
it.
into that. We'll read through it, I'm sure.
Heck yeah.
So, well, look, talking about the Constitution, we're nearing the bottom of the hour here. So maybe take the next couple minutes. I can throw the video out there for our veteran spotlight, and then we can dig into the Constitution when we come back. That work?
That sounds good with me. I mean, honestly, I don't even need a break. I know we got a late start today. I made sure I emptied the bucket and stuff before we got here. So I
Right.
did have to mess with my hats because as you can see my green screen, I was wearing my John Deere hat and it don't like the John Deere logos. It makes it all weird looking.
Oh,
So
that's weird as heck. The hat just
yeah.
disappears. That's
So
cool.
yeah, that's why I switched hats into this one. Actually, my wife's father got me this.
Very cool.
So yeah,
Very
let's
cool.
let's do our veteran spotlight.
All right, so we're gonna roll this. This will be about a 5-minute video altogether because it is all in one video, but that's all right. We'll run 5 minutes late to make up for the 5 minutes. So I'm gonna roll that, and we will be right back.
I joined the Army in August of 2001. The transition from military to civilian life was rough. I was registered with PTSD when I separated. My wife actually told me later that she was scared to be around me.
I'm Natasha. I was in the Army. Our chief decided to take a turn that we shouldn't have taken, and we hit a landmine, and it exploded beneath my seat.
Well, in Iraq, I was working in and out of Iraqi police stations. I saw more actual combat in Afghanistan than I did in Iraq.
And it was very difficult to come back, and to feel like you lose that sense of community.
I decided to get some help. So I went to the only resources I knew, and that was the VA. And that definitely saved my life and my marriage.
I always encourage people to go to the VA. I always encourage people to try it. Like, if they're telling you listen, we're going to make sure that you have what you need so that you could succeed in life. Why not take advantage of it?
Our society needs this generation of veterans to pursue their education and to continue to help make this a richer and a stronger world. It is an opportunity. It is something that these veterans have earned by their service.
It's really easy. People think it's hard to use the GI Bill in school, and it's not. It's a seamless, easy program, and the benefits are just unbelievable. While everyone else is working and scraping through college, you don't have to. You can concentrate on your studies and that transition into becoming a civilian again.
Obtaining the benefit wasn't very difficult. Once I contacted the VA, I was able to put in the paperwork, get it all started.
The GI Bill, there's several different programs that they can be utilized for. It can be utilized for a technical school, it can be utilized for an art school. If if a veteran decides that he's not going to go to school, or he uses some kind of different program, that GI Bill can be passed on, and his children will receive the exact same benefits that he would have received.
But it does cover tuition. You get $1,000 annually to use for books and supplies, and you get housing.
I've always had the love for education. I didn't have the opportunity. The military gave me the opportunity. The VA helped me accomplish that. And now I want to give back.
I'll graduate college in May of this year from the University of North Texas. It's going to be an example for my sons that no matter what your limitations are, that you don't put limitations on yourself.
I'm now a functioning member of society. I'm about to be a doctor.
Just because you had a brain injury, or just because you have PTSD, or just because you have an obstacle, that doesn't mean you can't accomplish a goal.
The post 9/11 GI Bill was, the only way I can say it is a blessing.
Due to my injuries, I couldn't have done it. Without this benefit, it would have been a no-go.
I can wholeheartedly say that the VA changed everything for me.
Sergeant Michelle Garcia served meritoriously in Iraq and has the medals to prove it. Soon after leaving the Navy, Lieutenant Chris Scott found a job, a home, and started a family of his own. Corpsman Richard Stokely took the skills he learned in Vietnam and put them to good use as a paramedic. But soon after leaving the military, each of these veterans fell on hard times and faced homelessness. Even after Michelle lost all her savings, even after Chris wasn't able to pay his mortgage, and even after Richard battled alcoholism for years, they each reached out for help when they needed it most. A simple phone call put them in touch with a trained professional from the Department of Veterans Affairs. That call got Michelle a place to stay until she could afford one of her own, put Chris in touch with employment assistance, and found Richard a substance abuse program. These veterans are success stories not only for how they were able to help others while serving their country, but for how they were able to let others help them. If you know of or are a veteran in need, make the call.
Hey everybody, Marcus Hadfield, served in the Illinois National Guard for 11 years, deployed twice, once to Louisiana to train the soldiers going to Iraq, 03-04 the second time, 08-09 to Afghanistan. I currently am working for Illinois Department of Transportation and own Hattie Livestock Farms. I have a beautiful wife and 4 children. Hope you guys are having a great day.
All right, we're back live, and I really like those videos, especially the one from Mr. Hadfield. Why don't you tell us a little about him, Patriotic? I think you know him.
Yeah, he was in my unit. Whenever I joined, he was like one of the. He'd already been in for I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years. He was like one of the senior E4s, and he was kind of like the grumpy old man. Like he was only in his mid-20s, but he acted like he was 45.
Right.
And he was always mad at everything, mad at this task and this job, and mad at this truck because it wouldn't run right, whatever. But we ended up getting in a fight one day and not getting along, and our squad leader said, "You know what? It looks like you two need some bonding time. From here on out, you're best friends." I'm like, damn. So
Did
Yeah,
they
to
make
this.
you wear the party shirt? You know, one shirt, two people.
Oh no. I do have a story about basic training where I was tied to another private though. But yeah. So we ended up getting deployed to the same place in Afghanistan and became roommates and everything, and just maintained a friendship. And actually, I went and saw him today.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he's still a good friend of mine.
So I want to hit on something in that first video that we played, where they were talking about the GI Bill. You know, you and I have had the conversation before that not all veterans fit in a box, and one of the guys in that video made a very interesting point that I think many veterans may not be aware of, and I know that I wasn't aware of it until I watched that video clip, and that is the fact that if you are a veteran and you come home from military service and you choose not to go to college, you can actually pass the GI Bill down to your children. One of your children can use your GI Bill to go to school. I did not know that. And so for those who maybe you come home and it's just not for you, you know, college, you ain't feeling college, maybe you already have a trade that you know how to work and you don't really have a use for the GI Bill, stick it back, talk to your veteran service officer and pass that on to your child because that can help your child get a good leg up in life. And also the fact I wasn't aware that they could use that GI Bill for things other than a standard college. Apparently, it can be used for trade schools and stuff like that as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a new thing. They restructured it. Man, I want to say like 8 or 10 years ago. I don't exactly remember when it happened. Because I had used my GI Bill to go to school, and then when they restructured it, it reset me at 36 months of eligibility. Um, it used to be like when I went to college, you had to go to a public school,
Right.
and so like I couldn't go to a technical school for auto mechanics. I had to go to whatever community college was the closest to my home address that provided those classes.
Right.
But then yeah, they did change it, and then a little bit to add on to the passing it down to your children though. That's not near as easy as it sounds. Um, you have to have at least 6 years of service.
Okay.
You had to agree to add 4 more years of service, so you have to sign another contract,
Okay. So this
and
would
you
be
have to
more
have
for the guy who's in it for a longer haul than just one
right,
enlistment.
right. Like I'm not eligible to transfer my stuff down to my kid.
Right.
And then also the the person you're transferring it to, so your dependent, it has to be a blood child, and they have to be enrolled in the military's insurance. So you have to be paying insurance dues for them, health insurance dues.
Right. Okay.
So there's a few hoops to jump through on that. It's not as easy as just signing a piece of paper saying, "Hey, I don't think I ever want to go to college. Can I give this to my kid?" It's not like my kid's school's paid for. It ain't.
Right. That's something definitely worth talking to a veteran service officer about, finding out if you're eligible, making sure of what you need to do if that's how you decide to go. You know, let a VSO help you fill out that paperwork, let them advise you so that you get everything right the first time. You don't want to be jumping through hoops repetitively. So, but yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that that was even a possibility. That's pretty cool. Now, I know that you've been learning a little bit about aviation recently. Does the GI Bill cover things like pilot school if you wanted to go to get your A&P and become a professional airplane mechanic, or if you wanted to go and get your license, become a commercial pilot, would it cover that?
As long as you are pursuing a career. So
Okay.
if you're going to be an airplane mechanic for a company, or if you if you're going to start your own business or whatever, like, and you need certifications and stuff for it, that's fine. But like I can't go get my private license on the military's dime.
Right.
It has to be in pursuant to a commercial pilot's
So
license.
you'd probably come closer to getting the private license on your own and then going, hey, I'd like to use my GI Bill. I have my private pilot's license. I'd like to pursue this as a career. Will you send me to school at, Embry-Riddle or wherever you need to decide to go. You can go to community college in a lot of places now and get your A&P or get your commercial license. A lot of colleges offer that. Even Liberty University. Liberty University offers a course that is the classes are done online, and then you take the flight training in your own hometown or the nearest airport to you that they have a pilot, the CFI who's available, and they have a bunch of locations across the country. And surprisingly enough, the course compared to say Embry-Riddle or another, highline flight school is very affordable, and the courses are very well laid out. I've talked to some people that have looked into them, and the courses are actually very well laid out. So there's a lot of different options out there. Um, trade schools, things like that. I know of a place that's opening in Missouri soon that is going to have some opportunities for veterans to come and learn how to work beef cattle from horseback. You do everything the old-fashioned way. You ride a horse every day. You'll learn to put shoes on the horses, so you learn a little bit about farrieing and blacksmithing. They're going to be teaching welding. Um, Man, I don't even remember what I know. They'll be teaching some mechanics because they work on their own equipment. Um, and I'm closely connected with the two people who are starting this, and it is in its infancy. As a matter of fact, this weekend it is being debuted at an equine show in Kansas. In fact, I think they had their first presentation earlier today. But it's called RPM Ranch, and it will be coming online later this year. So I'm excited about that. Some really cool opportunities. Hopefully, we can get those two guys on the show and interview them, let them tell us what they're going to have to offer. Any kind of opportunities like that to help our veterans, especially when it's a non-typical job, if you will. A lot of guys, they don't want to go work in a factory. They don't want to go work at McDonald's. They don't want to go, drive a truck. But man, you get the opportunity to learn how to shoe horses and ride horseback and work cattle. Well, that's a whole different ball game. That's a job that a lot of guys would be interested in because it's not the normal offering.
I had a buddy who used his GI Bill right after they changed that law, or the law, whatever, I guess, about what he used it for. He went to a gunsmithing school out in Colorado, and
That's
it was
pretty
on the
cool.
government's time. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I need to talk to
Yeah.
him. I need some.
Actually, I
smithing
tried
done.
getting a hold of him, but he doesn't have Facebook anymore or anything, so
I
that's a
don't
connection
blame
I've just
him.
lost.
I don't
Yeah.
blame him. Well, let's dig into the Constitution a little bit. Today's topic in the Constitution is going to be pretty interesting, and it's something that I've wanted to learn a little more about. And this segment of the Constitution, like I said, we're not going to go a whole hour on this or anything like that. It's going to be a fairly short segment. We'll read the section of the Constitution that's relevant, and then we're going to learn a little bit about why we have an electoral college for presidential elections and why that electoral college is actually important to the way that we do elections. Do you have the link to that pulled up, or you need me to send it to you?
Same one we were using last time?
Yep. Article
Yeah,
2, Section 1. And I am going to send you this link because I didn't get a chance to get it to you through Google Drive today. So this is an article that is fairly short, but it breaks down what the benefits are to an electoral college and why it's important that we have it. So I'll go ahead and read. Well, I'll tell you what. You read section 1, and then we'll break it down and look at it.
Why am I going to read the long one?
Well, that's the only section we're reading. So if you
Oh,
want to take, say, the first two
Alright.
paragraphs, then I'll take the blue section.
I'll
under
just
that.
read it.
All right.
The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the vice president chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors, equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative, or person holding office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, one of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves, and they shall make a list of all persons voted for, and the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify, and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority, and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them to be president. And if no person having a majority, then from the five highest on the list, the said House shall in like manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having one vote. A quorum for the purpose. This purpose shall consist of a member from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain two or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person except a natural born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of the President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. In case of the removal of the President from office or his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the Vice President, and the Congress may by law provide for a case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and the Vice President, declaring what officer shall then act as President, and such officer shall act accordingly until a disability be removed or a President shall be elected. The President shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. Quote, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. End quote. Section.
Pretty solemn oath.
Yeah, you should have read that blue section. That was terrible.
Now you know why I said you can read it. It is a mouthful, but basically what it points out, and this is something that I cannot remember happening in my lifetime, but it is possible to have a president from one party and a vice president from another party should the vote so determine. Because when we vote, we don't cast a vote for president and vice president together. It's not a party vote. You vote for the president and you vote for the vice president. And then in theory, your electoral votes from the people that are representing your area of the state you live in would then carry the majority opinion of the people within their area. So it would be possible, say for instance here in Memphis, if 70% of us voted for a Republican president, but then 60% of us voted for a Democratic vice president, it would be possible, if that were to carry a trend throughout the country, that you could have a president from one party and a vice president from another. Now, I don't remember that happening in my lifetime. And now I'm really curious, and for next week I'm going to research if it ever happened at any point, because that's rather interesting. I did not realize that was even a possibility. And so that I find that to be pretty interesting. But basically what it's saying is that each state has a certain number of people that have the ability to cast a vote for president, and basically their vote is the vote that is counted when the presidential election is done. What they are supposed to do is carry the will of the people who live in their districts. And I found a article that I thought was really good from the Heritage organization, heritage.org. And I like the way that they open the article. It says, when the framers drafted the Constitution in 1787, they could not have predicted the many changes and advances that our society has undergone since the 18th century. However, through their genius and foresight, they designed an electoral system that has the ability to adapt to modern day America and work even better than they could have anticipated. And then it goes on to list some of the benefits of having an electoral college. And the electoral college is the group of people who actually cast the vote before the Senate to be counted up to determine who will be our next president and vice president. Now, I sent you that link. Have you had a chance to scroll through that at all?
I did not get a link.
Should be in Discord in your
Yeah, I'm
private
looking.
messages. Let me. No, it's not. I posted it somewhere else. Here we go. I have no idea where I posted that now. Oh well,
So
somebody will
it
get some
says
free
here,
information.
for the electors, right, that it, they vote in pairs. So basically, checks and balances, right?
Yep.
Vote by ballot for two persons, one of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same as in that state.
Right.
So that's what the checks and balances, the check and balance comes out to be is somebody from Mississippi has somebody from Alabama voting with them to hopefully honor the majority vote.
Right. Right. And the forefathers, the men who drafted this were very intelligent beyond their years. Um, they they laid out not only a plan for electing a president that was fair and balanced, but also even provided a plan B should there ever be a complete tie up in the voting. Should and we
Yep.
see there I have no idea how many people actually ran for president last election cycle. I know there's one guy in Florida that runs every time. I think he's been in like 27 elections so far. He's never gotten more than a few votes. I mean like 30, 40 votes there in his district, but he runs every election. So they provided a way so that if multiple people were running and there was a tie between two people, then the Senate has been given strict instructions and directions on how they're going to choose which of those people shall be president. But then it says that if it's an even more convoluted situation than that, they can take the 5 highest on the ballot and the House will in like manner choose the president by voting again within the House among the 5 top candidates. So they built in checks and balances throughout that whole
Redundancies
part. Yeah.
galore.
Yeah, they were making sure they're saying, "Hey, look, this is how it's going to be. And if for some reason this plan A doesn't work out, here's plan B and here's plan C." And at the point you get beyond plan C, now you have a whole nother problem you need to talk about. So one of the things where is that at? There it is. I like this segment of the article on the Electoral College as well. Talks about the fact that having an Electoral College prevents a presidential candidate from winning an election by just focusing his attention on highly populated areas. The whole point of the Electoral College was so that the entire country got equal representation in a presidential election. The people of Chicago or the people of New York or the people of Los Angeles shouldn't decide every time an election comes around what happens for the rest of the country. They don't, if they don't live in the area, they don't understand the needs of the farmer in the Midwest or the Gulf Coast fisherman. They don't know those needs because they don't live that life. And the same thing is true in reverse. The Midwest farmer doesn't necessarily understand what inner city New York needs. You go out in the country, even
Well,
here,
they're still kind of going by population, though, right? Because it says that a state shall have the same amount of electors as it has representatives.
they have so many representatives based on population and land area. If I
Up
remember
top, it
right,
said they get one. In Article 1, it said they get one representative for every 30,000 inhabitants.
okay, all right, yep, you're right. I remember that clause now.
So it's still kind of.
It is still kind of done on population, but the thing is, even
But that's
inside the
okay.
cities, you get a
Part of
varied
being
opinion.
right, for sure. But part of being in a democratic government is that you're going to end up in the minority sometimes.
Yep.
And like that's the way my state works, right? I live in Illinois. I don't live in Chicago. Guess what Illinois does? Everything Chicago wants.
Yep.
I'm the minority. That is what it is.
That's
Like
pretty
it
much
doesn't matter
true.
who I vote for government. They're going to be a Democrat. Does not matter.
Yep. That's
And
pretty much true.
but I mean, that's what our government is supposed to be doing, is representing the majority, right? Making the best choices for the majority. You can't change the rules for the 1%. You change the rules for the 99%.
That's very true. And another thing the Electoral College does that's favorable for us is it helps protect the legitimacy of an election. So the Electoral College increases legitimacy and certainty of the election by magnifying the margin of victory. Um, Basically, what this is saying is that because there are less actual physical votes to be counted for the Electoral College than there are for the population of the whole, there's less chance of having contentious recounts and things like that happen. Now, we saw um, back in, when was it, 2000, I think, uh,
Uh,
when Florida had the
was it
major recount. I think
2003 going into the 2004
it
election
might have been 2003 going into 2004 election.
with
Yeah,
George
no,
Bush?
2000 presidential election.
Was it 2000?
Yep, and huge, expensive recounts and
With the hanging
time.
Chad?
Yeah, the hanging Chad and time was wasted going back through those ballots. The Electoral College is set up in order to help prevent that. So can you imagine how long that would have taken had we had to recount Florida, New York, and California?
Right.
We'd have been a year without knowing who our next president was going to be, you know? And so the idea behind the Electoral College is to reduce that down and make it a little easier to make sure that the results are legitimate. Now, there's no guarantee that people aren't going to try to cheat the system.
Right.
But the Electoral College minimizes the incentives. The incentives. I can't talk tonight either. The Electoral College minimizes the incentives for voter fraud because it isolates the impact of stolen votes. Um, under an Electoral College system, the stolen votes only affect the outcome of that state rather than the national outcome. And even though those votes, if they're stolen or fraudulent, even though they may win that state, it may not be enough to make a difference in the actual presidential election. Um, and it wouldn't matter if they won that state with 100 stolen votes or 100,000. So think of, say, a city New York size. If we went on a popular vote, then every vote in the U.S. would have to be counted, and those would be the actual numbers that are reported to the president, to announce the next president. But let's say that in New York and Los Angeles, one party or the other managed to steal a combined 250,000 votes. And now we're looking at an election that is not run on an electoral college. We're looking at an election that counts the physical votes of every individual in the country. 250,000 is a lot of votes to be taken fraudulently, and it could be enough to swing the entire election. And so by using the electoral college, that is prevented. They may be able to take those two states, but still, if you lose Ohio, if you lose Indiana, if you lose Florida, it doesn't matter if you won those two states.
Yep.
It's offset by the electoral college. So I think that is definitely, it's definitely an integral part of our elective system. I've read on this before, but I haven't really studied it out until this week and learned about why it's important that we have it. I kind of was just one of those guys that I go in and I cast my vote because I believe my vote counts, and it's my duty as a citizen of the United States to cast my vote. You fought for my right to vote, and I
Or
owe
not.
you that respect.
I also fought for your right to not vote.
That's true. That's true. You did. You fought for that right as well. But I
Fought for your right to
personally,
burn American flags.
that's true.
All of them. Not just the ones we want.
That is true. And as much as I do not like to even think about it, it's true. Um, but I always vote, and I cast my vote because I believe my vote counts. I know that it's not the official number of votes that President whoever gets from the people.
Yeah, I mean, your vote's still count because that's
That's
the way
what
the electoral college is supposed to
that's
sway,
what
right? And
right. That's
that's the
what
point of having
determines.
somebody from outside of your state come in and second that voter card that your elector is going to send up to the Senate
Yep.
is so they can say, "Yep, I was there. That's how many people voted this way, and that's how many people voted that way."
Checks and balances,
Yep.
verification. This guy's telling the truth or this lady's telling the truth when she says this is how she's going to vote because that's how her people said, or he said that's how his people said. Now we have a check and balance in place that makes sure that we actually follow the procedure that's been laid out by the Constitution. So interesting stuff, and it can get pretty deep studying the Electoral College, like the science behind it and how it works. But the Constitution lays it out, even though it's a mouthful to read, it is laid out in fairly simple language. Basically, we cast a vote. Our representatives then cast a vote that reflects what we have told them to say, and those votes are counted. And if there's a tie, then the House gets together and votes again. And if there's still an issue beyond just two people being close in votes, then they get together and they vote on the top 5 people and see who comes out on top. So a little bit of a popularity contest, but I don't think
That's all it is now.
I don't think it's as much of a circus as it would be if we went to a person for person vote in the United States. I think we would see a lot more voter fraud, and I think we would see a lot of it on both sides of the political aisle.
Well, and who would even regulate that? I mean, honestly,
How?
who do we the people trust enough to say, "Yep," like the FBI? Do we trust them enough to say, "Yeah, they can count our votes"? CIA, NSA.
Not
You know
judging
what I mean?
from the interviews I've watched this week, no.
That's what I'm saying. Like, who are we going to trust to count our votes anyways? Like,
Have you seen the interviews with the FBI director this week?
nope.
Oh, it's been some interesting stuff. They asked him some very pointed questions regarding the raid on former President Trump's house, which is an unprecedented raid. Nothing like that has ever been done. And as soon as the senator went to ask him the question, he said, "Oh, no, wait. First of all, it wasn't a raid. It was a search warrant." She goes, "Okay, fine. Did you sign off on the search warrant?" And he said, "Look, I don't sign off on individual search warrants." And I'm sitting here thinking, you are the director of the FBI, and you're trying to tell the American people that it was below your pay grade to know that a former president's house was going to have the door knocked on and a federal search warrant executed? Let's not play stupid here.
Well, the FBI doesn't have the best track record with administering warrants, anyways, right?
No, they don't. It didn't work out too well for them at Ruby Ridge, and
Yep.
Waco didn't work out for anybody.
I've been to Mount Carmel. That place is eerie.
I can only imagine the feeling of walking in there. And guys, for those of you who are familiar with the incident that took place at Waco some years ago, I don't hold with David Koresh's theology. I don't hold with his morals, but the man was not guilty of violating a weapons law at all. And if you go back and you research and you listen to the interviews from the local sheriff and from even people that were very close to the situation, including one man who survived the raid on the compound, you will find that he was completely within his constitutional rights of what he was doing with weapons. The FBI was simply trying to make a statement, and it went horribly wrong. And it cost a lot of people their lives when it shouldn't have.
Yep, a lot of innocent people.
Yep. And I mean, we've seen issues here recently. What was it, like 2.5 years ago? The rancher in Texas had ended up, him and some of his employees ended up laying on their bellies in the sagebrush, keeping FBI agents up on an overpass busy.
Yep.
Because they're trying to confiscate his land. He said, "You ain't taking my land." And every time they'd stick their head up, his sniper would put a round into the overpass a foot or so to one side of them, just to remind them, "Keep your head down, quit looking at us."
Yeah, and you hate to see actions like that because you're never gonna know every detail.
Nope.
No matter, you can pick a side, you can have a bias, but you're never gonna know every detail.
You won't ever know the
and
truth.
even the rancher laying on the ground don't know every detail. Even the FBI agents that are on the overpass don't know every detail. Everybody's just doing.
They're doing their job.
What they feel is right. The rancher doesn't feel that the government has the right to come in and step foot on his land, and the FBI, all the agents there they believe they're doing their duties.
They're doing what their superiors told them to do.
It says, that they'll uphold the laws of the Constitution and follow orders of officers appointed over them, right?
Right. Well,
So I mean,
the media contributes to that. I remember watching the news during that standoff at Mount Carmel, and I can remember sitting there going, there's some crazy guy living in Texas who's shooting at the FBI every day, because all the clips that they played were the clips over and over of gunshots back and forth from both sides. They didn't actually tell the story of how that all
right.
came to be. And so you never get the full facts from the news media. You never get the full facts from any official sources. And in some cases, I understand that there are things that happen that maybe the general public doesn't need to know how it happened. I don't need the details of who was on the team and exactly how they got to Osama bin Laden. It's good enough for me he's dead. So I understand that there are some things that shouldn't and can't be released to the public.
If he's dead.
Yeah, if he's dead. But I do wish that there was more transparency. I wish that there was more governance on the news media. When Congress allowed the news to have the airwaves for free, they told them, it said, in return for having these airwaves it wasn't the news, it was the television networks. They said, you can have the airwaves to use for free, but in return, you're going to provide 1 hour of public information every night. And that's where the evening news came from. Where they messed up at was Congress did not pass a law stating that there could be no advertisement during that hour broadcast. Because if they had, you would not see such biased newscasts. The news networks would not be as owned as they are today by large corporations, by rich individuals, and by people who want to spin a certain narrative. And if you don't think that your news is biased, it doesn't matter where you get it from. If they have advertising, they're biased, because if they post a story that one of their advertisers doesn't like and they lose a $10 million account, that hurts their checkbook.
Well, and we can't. I hear what you're saying. I do, but I do not believe in government censorship. I do not want the government. I believe in the government should keep their sticky hands off everything.
Right.
I don't want them stepping in and saying, "Nope, this channel you can't say that." Because what if I got that big? What if this show gets that big? And they're like, "Oh,
Right.
we're gonna shut you guys down because you guys can't say that." Well, then you're back in Nazi Germany.
Well, I don't think that they should be able to tell them you can't say or you can't do, but to say, look, you cannot be paid for that hour. You get 23 hours a day to use the airwaves to make billions. You can give up that 1 hour with no advertising for free and put together a news source that's an actual news source. There was a time when a news reporter got on TV and they looked you in the eye when they were talking to the camera, and you believed what they were saying because all they were
Absolutely.
doing was telling you what happened that day. Where are the Walter Cronkites of this generation? Men and women who will sit in front of a camera or stand in front of a camera and simply tell you what's going on. When the cities were burning a few years ago, we had reporters standing in front of burning buildings saying this is a mostly peaceful protest. Why not just tell us
Right.
the truth? Let's just call it like it is. I would dare say
Well, it's about agendas,
80%.
right?
It is, but I would dare
Everybody
say
has an
those
agenda.
protests,
Big company
80,
has an agenda, and the smallest guy on the ground has an agenda. They're trying to get a paycheck and get promoted, and the company's trying to keep them $10 million contracts.
yep,
Everybody's got an agenda.
and I would dare say that if you looked at the actual numbers, 80, probably more than 80% of the people who were involved in what went on probably were peaceful people who weren't trying to cause trouble. But all it takes is a few of the misdeeds going horribly wrong to change that from what they called a mostly peaceful protest to cities being on fire, to people being fired on, former police officers being gunned down while they're trying to protect a pawn shop. I saw all kinds of very sad things happen that should have never happened, and I watched as the news media condoned it. There was no
Yeah.
condemnation from the news media. Our own federal government, members of our government, condoned what was going on instead of saying, hey, we understand that you have grievances, and we're willing to sit down and talk about those grievances, but you're not going to burn our cities to the ground. You're not going to take over portions of our cities and demand that you have control of them. You
Well,
know,
people are idiots too, right?
well, that's true.
I mean, seriously, if you think if you and I are going to have a discussion or an argument or a dispute on something, and you cite to me that Fox News was where you learned that, bullshit. Like that is not a good, or CNN, or I'm just picking one. I don't care, NBC, whatever one. But if you believe everything that's on your TV, you're an idiot. That's your fault. It's not the government's place to step in and protect you from being an idiot.
Right.
The government's supposed to allow you to be an idiot if that's what you want, and if you want to take that, that segment you learned off your news network and take it to school and tell all your friends about it, go ahead. You're just an idiot. No one can help you on that.
Right. I mean, that's honestly what I see happening with media would be somewhat akin to taking an adult person, putting them in an apartment and saying, here, you can live in this apartment free, and here's all this food on the counter. You can eat all this food for free. And on the counter, on one side of the counter, you got all kinds of healthy, decent food, even some sweets and desserts. And on the other side of the counter, you got a bunch of rotten meat. Well, if
I
you're
thought we were going with
stupid enough,
candy here.
well, that too. But if you're stupid enough to sit there and eat the rotten meat, you deserve every bit of the food poisoning you're going to get from it. Same thing is true when it comes to your information. Don't believe what you read on the newspaper or online or on Facebook. Don't believe what you see in the
Don't
TV.
believe
Go
the first
research
source
it.
you see, right?
No, find the indie journalist
Like
who has
whenever
the whole video.
whenever we're arguing about something, you'll be like, yeah, well, this website said that, and I'll say, well, this one says this, and you're like, well, this other one says that. Okay, now we got 3 different sources. Like now we might be getting a picture painted for us of
Right.
what could be the truth or something close to it.
Sometimes I feel kind of like the 3 blind men finding an elephant for the first time, and they're trying to describe it to each other, and one of them says it's a wall. We're up against a wall, and the other one said no, and he wraps his arm around the leg. He's like, it's a tree. It's a tree. And the third one says no, it's a hose. He's grabbing the trunk. And
Yep.
all of them are seeing the same thing or feeling the same thing, but none of them have a clear picture of what it is they're looking at. And I think America is very much like that right now. We are all seeing the same thing, but none of us have a clear picture of the whole picture. We see only what's local to us. Memphis. Memphis is a rough city. Memphis, it breaks my heart. My
I've been there. I lock my doors.
My pastor tells me every time he sees me, and he said, make sure that you take the time to look in people's eyes. And he said that's how you know if they need to be encouraged. That's how you know if they need some help with something. So they may not ever tell you, but you can look in their eyes and tell. And I can tell you this: walking the streets of Memphis, going into the neighborhoods that I go into for funerals and to take pictures of the houses for my boss, I see people walking a lot on the streets. I see them in the stores, and their faces are. You look at them and they're just empty. They're just full of despair. There's no hope. And I'm like, man, I can't understand how a large portion of the population of this city lives the way that they live because they literally look like they have nothing to look forward to in life. I enjoy life. It's not perfect. It's definitely got its ups and downs, and sometimes more
Well,
downs than
it's
ups.
better than the other, right?
Yeah, but I mean, being on this side of the dirt's better than pushing up daisies.
Right.
It's like I tell the funeral director, that, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm better than I deserve. You ain't carrying me today. You know, and that's a pretty good life. So
Heck yeah.
we've come around a bunch of different topics today. Operation Iraqi Freedom, 20-year anniversary of the start of that coming up in just a couple of days, 3 days.
Yeah, today was the day. Oh, happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way.
Oh yeah, it is St. Patty's Day, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, we had to talk about Iraqi freedom today because otherwise we would have missed the date.
Right.
So we'll do there's been a lot of good service members. I read a few years ago, probably I'd say 5 years ago. I read at the time, 34% of our federal officials that held elected office were post 9/11 veterans.
Right.
I think that's so cool. That number's only going up.
I saw a video on Facebook, and I do not know if it's true or not. I'm still researching it before I show it on stream. But it was a rather interesting speech given by a man, and he was talking about the NBA versus the NFL and things they were
It's
known
not true.
for.
I know what you're talking
You know
about,
which
and I
one?
would, yeah,
Have
and
you looked into that?
yeah, that was debunked like the day it came out. That came out in 2012, I think.
Right.
The actual video of that dude saying that, and yeah, that was not true. They did a background check on all, because you can, if you're a public official, any of that's public record
Right.
basically, right? So they did a background check on that, and the numbers for the sitting cabinet at the time were inaccurate. So, or the sitting representatives at that time was
Right.
inaccurate. Now
It wouldn't
that
have
dude did
surprised me
specify. It wouldn't have surprised me either, but he also might have been talking about
as a
uh,
whole.
as a whole through all time. You know, I mean, I don't know, but um, the fact checkers or whatever, the ones that I read said that that was inaccurate for the current sitting, and then it showed the numbers of, you know, the actual representatives in there had 3 DUIs and whatever, but it didn't just say that he was wrong. It actually gave the right facts, but I didn't care about the facts. I just wanted to see if that video was true or not. Yeah, I saw the
Right.
same one.
Yeah, I'd tell you what I'd like to see the numbers on is how many of them have gotten out of DUIs. That
Yep.
would be an interesting number to see. I
I'd
know
like to see why inmates get 3 square meals a day for free, and I still got to pay for my kids to have school lunch.
I think we need to go to the what's the sheriff in Arizona? Um,
Oh, I know who you're talking
You know who
about.
I'm talking about. I can't remember his name.
Yep.
All of his prisoners get treated the same. They get pink pajamas and they go out to the desert and they dig ditches in the sand. He feeds them old bologna sandwiches, is what they eat for the most part for lunch and supper. I don't remember what they eat. I think oatmeal for breakfast. But they dig ditches and they move the camps every so often. They take them out and move the camps. And on one camp, you'll be digging ditches. Yeah, Joe Arapio or something like that. That's pretty close to it, I think. But in one camp, they'll be digging ditches, and then after so many days, you move to another camp and you're filling in ditches that the guys before you dug. And that's literally all they do is dig and refill the same ditches over and over again. And Charles Barkley got arrested. I believe it was Charles Barkley got arrested for DUI, and they asked him about Sheriff Joe's jail. He said, "Let me tell you something. I will never get a DUI in his county again." He said, "I was treated just like every other inmate. I wore the pink pajamas and I dug ditches just like the rest of them. I ate old bologna just like the rest of them." So he
Yep.
said he didn't show me no favors just because I was a star. You know, we need more sheriffs like that. Guys who aren't afraid to stand up and say, "Hey, the taxpayers in this county are barely getting by. Why are we feeding prisoners who've committed crimes against the taxpayers better than the taxpayers?"
And yeah, I'm not saying they're getting better food. They are. Michelle Obama absolutely screwed up public schools food. I don't know if you know anything about that or not. She did the school lunch reform. Was her deal. Damn, I'm getting a cough, man. This ain't no good. I hope I can get sick.
Me too. I don't want to catch it.
Yeah. I moved my mic out of the way so it don't come at you.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, I don't want it blowing in my ears.
Yeah, but she did, and I understand what she was doing. So basically, she pulled all the bullshit food out of schools. You know, so we're not just having actual hamburgers, you know, with bacon and grease everywhere and pizza every day and all that stuff. And she put in healthy foods. But whenever COVID happened, our school had already had a whole bunch of lunches, and our school does breakfast as well. If you drop your kids off 20 minutes early, they can eat breakfast with their friends in the cafeteria, right? Start their day off with their buddies and whatever, which I think is awesome. But whenever COVID hit, the school sent a letter home, "Hey, kids ain't coming to school. School's canceled till further notice, but we got all this food here in storage that we're not gonna be making now, so we're gonna send it home to your families. You know, if you want to come Tuesday at noon to pick up whatever you want, basically."
Right.
So I'm like, cool, let's go. We came home with like 4 grocery bags full of food, right? Free food. Who doesn't like that?
Right.
Man, the next morning I get up excited. I'm like, we got these breakfast sandwiches here. I got a 6-pack of breakfast sandwiches. We cooked that. It was like eating cardboard. And I'm talking like stale cardboard.
Worse than an MRE?
Zero flavor. Oh no. I don't know. Some MREs are good. You get
That's
that
bad
spaghetti
when
with
you have to
meatballs.
think about that answer.
Yeah, you might hug your friend extra tight. He gives you that spaghetti with meatball MRE. That's a good one. But most MREs are terrible, just because I have a selective palate. But no, all this food was like we had like little octagon pizzas. Remember
Right?
them?
Yep.
Yep. And they changed them. They're terrible now. The rectangle pizzas that everybody's got, the 6-inch by 9-inch rectangle high school pizza.
Yep.
Those are junk now.
Best
They don't
pizza
taste.
in the world back in the day.
Back in the day, it was heck yeah, but not now.
But you want to hear the irony of that whole situation? Michelle Obama's favorite restaurant is Five Guys.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
that was that one cop's favorite.
No, that's Michelle Obama's favorite restaurant.
Oh,
She
did you get the
I
reference there? Or
can't
no?
remember. No,
Oh,
I
I was
can't
talking.
remember.
They're crucifying some lady cop for being in an open relationship and hanging out with her coworkers after hours a little too much. If you catch my drift.
Yeah,
Supposedly there was 5 of them, so her favorite place to eat is Five Guys.
that's messed up.
It is messed up.
But yeah, Michelle Obama's favorite restaurant, Five Guys. This is the lady who went on a health food kick for your kids and took Twinkies out of school. And I mean, you look back at the things America has done, and some of the things we've done as a nation are really stupid. I mean, you took go back a couple of years, and we put Twinkies out of business and legalized pot all within 30 days of each other. That was kind of stupid because Hostess stood to make a fortune right there.
Yeah, that's probably why they did it.
It
Our governors
probably
and
is.
senators probably didn't own enough stock in Twinkies at the moment.
Right, but
you
they did.
notice they
But they
brought it
did.
back, right?
They did own enough stock in the head shops because those are
Heck yeah.
popping up everywhere. Well, man,
What's a
do
head shop?
you have anything else for tonight?
I do, but I don't know if it's getting late, man. It's 8:20. It's past your bedtime.
It is. What do you got?
Well, last week we touched about war and what it costs a country, and
I'd like to clarify something we have never touched. You just put that out there for chat. He's lying.
yeah. War costs for citizens is something I'd like to talk about. So
Okay.
we talked about like different generations of war, remember? And then how we said, World War II, the whole country went to war.
Yep.
We kind of left it open-ended whenever, not really open-ended, but we've added pieces here and there throughout our 6 episodes so far. We talked on episode maybe 1 about war bonds and stuff like that, and gas stamps, right? Food
Yep.
stamps, all that stuff that hit. And we talked about support for wars and how that's directly relevant. And
Right.
it's because it's the cost for. I literally just wrote down a sentence. I said, "War cost for citizens?" ? You are old enough to remember the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
What changed financially in your life whenever you were watching CNN and it said, "We are going to war"? Financially, what changes did you have to make?
Not very many at that point. I was in my early 20s. I was 21. At that point in my life, I was partying pretty hard, and I was making good money selling cars. So I didn't personally make
I
a
thought
whole
you were
lot
gonna
of
say selling
changes.
coke. Oh my god! I don't know why my mind went there.
No,
Sorry.
I sold cars for a Toyota dealership, and I made very good money when I was doing that.
Yep.
It was a great way to make an income. But
They got a
so
factory up in Kentucky where they put them together, I believe.
yep,
It might be it's Toyota or Nissan. One of them's got a factory right up there in Kentucky.
yep, we got Nissan in Mississippi too. But not a whole lot changed for me financially at first.
Did you notice a drastic increase in the cost of, say, Mountain Dew?
I saw a few things that increased in price. Gas went up a little bit for a while, and then about, I don't know, maybe a month, 2 months in, gas prices started to come back down a little bit, and then they continued to decline throughout, and
Yep.
we were back down under $1 a gallon. When I started driving, gas was 88 cents a gallon. Marlboros were $1.29 a pack.
I've only put gas in my car one time that cost less than $1. I was driving over in Indiana one time getting some illegal fireworks because we can't buy fireworks here in this state I live in. And so we have to go to Indiana and illegally transport them back. That's right, I said it. But I was on my way back, and the last gas station before the border said, "Last stop for gas before Illinois, 99.9 cents a gallon." I said,
We stopping here.
I've never seen no dollar gas before. Yeah, I filled her up. But yeah. So I think about the same story for most citizens. Probably. I mean, your lives probably didn't drastically change. Now, I'm not talking about families of soldiers or anything. I'm just talking about the financial burden that war placed on you.
Average
Um,
Joe.
it really wasn't one, right? Like you just said, we went to war. We've been in that country for 20 years with interruptions, but that's a long time. And to think that your life didn't have to change, our youth now that are mid 20s, 30 years old are like, well, I still went to college. I got my degree. I got a job as a lawyer or whatever. They never even had to consider changing their lives, even though our country is at war, spending $28 trillion a year on war. Our taxes didn't go up. We didn't have to buy gas stamps. We didn't have to financially support our government. We didn't, with the bonds, the war bonds. Like, so I think that goes hand in hand with support for a war, because the everyday citizen does not feel the impact of war. They find it. They probably don't even consider how much support is needed for those soldiers during and after.
I think you're right.
You see what I'm saying? Did I paint a clear picture?
It does, because the things that we care about the most are the things that affect us the most. You know, if when it comes to voting, you know who we're going to vote for? The guy who promises the lowest gas price, the lowest cost per jug of milk, the guy who tells us, or the girl who tells us, "Hey, I can make sure that your needs are met financially." That's how America picks its candidates. And sadly, that's a horrible way to pick a candidate, because you know nobody ever keeps their promises. What we should be doing is looking for people who lead a life, and I mean, when you look at them, their life reflects the fact that they make wise decisions.
I'll give you a name right now, and this is a guy that you have never had contact with, and I've never had contact with. But when I say this name, you should immediately know who I'm talking about and what they stand for. General Mattis.
Yep, I've heard the
If
name.
he ran for president, he wouldn't need to have 83 stops on his campaign trail. You know what I mean?
Right,
Because we know who he is. We know what he stands for. He walked out on Trump because he said, Trump, I'll drop all the bombs you want, but I don't like the way you're doing it. You got to let me run this. You know,
right.
Trump said. So he walked out on the president. He resigned his position. And you talk to any Marine. I don't know if we got any Marines in our chat right now. Everybody knows who Mad Dog is. Everybody. I was in the Army and I know who Mad Dog is. But we don't have any. I'm gonna say men talking, because traditionally we have men who lead our armies and men who lead our country. It has, if there's a great lady general out there, or Miss General, I don't even know what you can call her, but ma'am, uh, absolutely put it in chat. I'd love to research it, but we don't really have any of those men of old.
No, we don't. We don't have any Norman Schwarzkopfs, Colin Powells. We
I got a
don't.
buddy who took a poop on Schwarzkopf's front yard one time. I'll tell you that story.
That,
Maybe I can get him on here to tell that story. That's a good one.
that would seem like a great way to get hurt really bad.
Yeah, he wasn't home, thankfully, but the MPs found him. Like, do you know whose lawn that is?
We
But
don't have, like you said, we don't have men of renown, I think would be
that's
the
the word
old
I was looking
English term.
for.
You know, when we think of men of renown, we think of great generals from the far back past: Julius Caesar, Alexander the
That
Great,
was the first name
Napoleon.
on my tongue. Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar, man of renown. We think
Like,
of King Arthur and Camelot. Samson.
yep.
We don't have a Samson today. We don't have, and I'm not just talking about somebody with super physical strength, but somebody with intelligence and wisdom, and that is what we are lacking in.
We do. His name's General Mad Dog Mattis. That's the guy. That's the Julius Caesar of today.
I'm
That's
talking about men in
that's the
politics, or women in politics. We don't have a politician with that mindset. We have too many politicians that are focused on padding their own pockets.
right.
How do I
But
retire?
a guy like Mattis, if he could come in there, he could take this country by storm, man. I guarantee you, all these threats from foreign countries, China and Russia saying we're gonna quit doing this and we're gonna boycott that or whatever. they wouldn't even think about talking sideways to that dude.
Right. Well, I
But
mean,
I
they thought
guarantee you,
twice about it with Trump. So
right?
imagine if you had somebody who has a reputation as being a fearless leader in the military.
I mean,
You
he's a
know,
65-year-old name, or a 65-year-old man, and his name is Mad Dog. They still call
yeah,
him Mad Dog. Like, you can't say General Mattis without saying General Mad Dog Mattis. Like,
right.
that's who that dude is. I can't believe there's no Marines in chat that said Mad Dog in there. But yeah.
But
Anyways,
but you're
war costs for
right.
citizens. That's the point.
The war cost for citizens is not as high as it used to be. And I think that began to change when we went to Korea and Vietnam. We didn't have to provide so much materially for the war then. We were in a good place financially as a country. We were growing, the economy was booming. So our people didn't suffer. And in return, we became lax, and we haven't had to since then.
Yep.
I
But
thank
why?
God the
It
draft
still
isn't in
costs.
place, but
It still costs money, right?
well, it's easy to say why because the federal government just prints more of it and tells you that you're richer by giving you more dollar signs in your bank account at the end of the week, but they're not worth as much. So and the same thing is true for what they're doing overseas. They just continue to borrow. They continue to uh, increase the debt deficit and they're not paying the debt off. Think about this. If you or I went and took out a loan for $100,000, just nice round number, and we paid on it and we paid on it and we paid on it, but we never actually made any progress paying on it and paying it off, what do you think the bank would do if we were
They'll
just
probably send me
making?
a letter saying, "Hey, you haven't paid on this. We need you to pay on it."
No. I'm talking about if you just made the minimum payment. Say a credit card. Say a credit card
Oh
for
yeah,
$100,000. You made the minimum payment. What's that credit card company gonna do? They're gonna keep letting you make that payment because they're
yeah, for sure.
making money off of you hand over foot. They're not going to encourage you to pay the principal down, and they're not going to trade out anything with you that's going to help you pay the principal down. Same thing is true for national debt. China, Russia, these other countries, they're not going to trade out with us and give us something that's going to help us pay our national debt off because they're collecting interest on it. Why
You know
would
who's
they
been
want us to pay
buying
it
up?
off?
You know who's been buying up a lot of our national debt?
Who's that?
Ireland.
Huh.
Tell me that ain't scary.
That is, yeah, that could be interesting. Uh, Next St. Patty's Day might be a whole different story.
Yeah, they've been buying up a lot of it. I think they're like sixth. I'm trying to find a list here real quick. No, I can only find the top 5 off the top of my head, but yeah, I think they're like sixth in line for owning the most U.S. foreign debt.
That's
And
crazy.
they buy it from other countries. Like if we owe China $20 million, Ireland's like, well, I'll give you
I'll give you
$1
18.
million for $1.5 million worth of debt. Oh,
Yeah.
China's like, all right, good deal.
Yeah, pay us back. And same thing a debt collection agency would do if you owed a debt. They go and they
Yep.
buy it for a percentage of the debt. Company you owe is happy to break even on it. And then the debt collection agency, well, they're going to get their money plus a little bit from you.
But yeah, they're gonna smack a transfer fee on there. Now instead of $300, now you owe them $330.
Right. And you say, well, it's just $30. Yeah, but if they do that to 100,000 people, that's $3 million. That's a
Yep.
lot of money.
Yes, sir.
So interesting thought there. The cost of war is not as high financially and physically for the American people. Therefore, the American people are not as interested in the war. And
Is there any cost? That's kind of what I was trying to figure out. I guess is
there's cost, but we don't see it. Our taxes do increase, and inflation is going up, and it's costing us more to live when it shouldn't. So yeah, there is cost associated with it, but we don't see it as war costs. It's not like, okay, well, we put boots on the ground in Kazakhstan today, and so now everybody's got to give $20 a piece. It's not a cost that we see. It's one that's rolled into our everyday cost of living, and that's why we don't see it as a cost of doing war.
but now that right now the United States of America is a war with 0 countries. Should not our wallets be getting fatter? Our lives becoming easier? Our taxes going down? That's what I'm saying.
You would think.
Or we just
That
let
would
them
make
have it,
sense.
and let them keep it. Like, what are we doing?
Probably the same
The,
thing we're doing with our military equipment. It's like, oh well, it's here, you keep it.
right?
We'll see you in 20 years.
Yeah, we'll come back for it.
Yeah, come get the pieces later.
Um,
Interesting thoughts.
closing thoughts. This is a short topic, so it won't be on too long. Your beliefs versus government action. And so I wrote that down, and I'll try to paint a picture here for you. Just because you believe something is right or wrong does not mean it's the government's responsibility to take action for or against that
True.
idea. Okay, so like gay marriage, religion, all of the hot topics of politics, right? Just because you believe that gay marriage should be outlawed doesn't mean that it's the government's responsibility to step in and outlaw it.
Right.
That's what I believe. Or legalize it, or marijuana. That's another good one, right? That's a big thing. Tons of states are legalizing marijuana. Like, just because you don't like marijuana and you think it should be illegal, that doesn't mean the government should come in and say that I can't do it. Guns. That's another hot one, right? You're anti-gun. You think that why do you need to have a gun? I don't need to have a gun. The writers of the Constitution said I could have one. That's it. It's not the government's. It should not be the government's prerogative to change laws or to do any legislature on beliefs, because beliefs at the end of the day, that's what all they are, is beliefs, right?
I can see your point. Yeah. I think that if you go down to the nitty gritty of that, though, you're going to end up with people claiming, well, every law is based on somebody's belief, and that's true. There has to be a moral ground. There has to be a right and wrong at the end of the day. When it comes to things that don't harm society, then I think the government should stay out of it. If it's something that harms society, then yes, something should be done. Now, here's the thing: guns don't harm society. Guns can defend society. What harms society is the evil hearts of man. So, how do you deal with the evil in the heart of man? You can't legislate it away. You can make all the laws you want. You're never going to make a bad person a good person by writing new laws. You have to
Right.
capture them, catch them when they're breaking a law, when they're doing something evil, and then make them serve their sentence out. And
I am.
I think our justice system is way too lax. I'm not a fan of death row. If you were witnessed by 3 or more people committing a heinous murder, you should die the next morning. End of story. No need to keep you on death row for 30 years and let you appeal. 3 different people saw you commit a murder. You should be dead. We shouldn't feed you. We shouldn't pay your bills for your lawyers. You shouldn't
I
get the
definitely
right to
don't believe
appeal.
in life sentences. I'm cool with death row. Being so close to the penal system as I am, I'm cool with death row, but I definitely don't believe in life sentences. I think that's a waste. Like I said about the school lunches and stuff. Why are we paying to keep this serial rapist, serial murderer, whatever, alive for 70 years on his life sentence? Whenever he's never getting out, he's got a life sentence. Or like, there's a guy, I don't know if you ever heard of the I-57 killer.
Yep.
He got like 2 consecutive 3,000-year sentences and
Yeah.
then a life sentence on top of that.
Why are we feeding him?
What are we doing? Like, yeah, let's throw him.
Why is that
Throw him
a
in a pine
thing?
box somewhere.
Why is
I have
that a
no
thing?
idea.
Why is
It blows
a
my
life
mind.
sentence a thing? If you have committed a crime worthy of a life sentence, then you have committed a crime worthy of losing your life. Because you have no life now. You're stuck in. I mean, obviously, you've worked in the prisons. You do have some semblance of a life. There is a pecking order among prisoners, and but you have no life
No
outside of
freedom or
that prison,
liberties.
right? So
And that's
why?
what our country's founded on, right? So
Right.
I am of the opinion that you are free to do whatever you want until your freedoms infringe on my freedoms.
Yep.
That needs to be a law. That's when the government steps in and says, okay, this is a law now.
And I should
Like,
also add to that too, though, that there needs to be a clause that states very clearly at the moment that someone infringes upon your freedoms, you have the right to defend those freedoms within reason. If they come at you with a weapon, you have the right to kill them, no questions asked.
I agree.
If they try to harm your family, you have the right to harm them, no questions asked.
But here's what gets everybody in trouble, and this is everywhere, man. School playground fights, basketball games, football games, real life. Whenever the threat is over, it's a great responsibility to also end the escalation of force.
Yep.
So if your house is getting robbed and you grab your gun and you run downstairs and that dude's running out your front door, the threat is over.
Yep.
You do not get to shoot that guy.
You don't shoot him in the back.
Even like bar fights or anything else. Like you get in a physical altercation with someone, you hit them, they go to the ground, whatever. It's
You're
over.
done.
You don't keep stomping the dude. It's done now. And that's escalating force is easy. Stopping that escalation is what, like, everybody right now is like, F the police, right? Defund the police, all that stuff. It's because a lot of these officers have trouble with that part of it. I mean, that's the hardest part of their job, is stopping an escalation of force.
We witnessed that in Memphis just a couple of months ago, where 5 officers just couldn't even take the time to tell each other to stop. And they just continued and continued and continued. And
well, humans are mob animals, right?
Happened. We are.
They call that something.
Mob mentality.
There's like an official, like the doctors or whatever have a phrase coined meaning mob mentality. We could be totally against something. Like, I'll say something that's a sensitive topic. Church, right?
Right.
Like right now, I do not feel the need to go to church. But whenever I show up to church, everybody's so welcoming and loving and friendly. I'm like, man, this is the place I need to be at. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's in a positive light, but it works the same in a negative light. If you're at a bar with 6 of your motorcycle buddies and someone is getting after one of them, then the second guy gets mad, then the third guy gets mad. Next thing you know, all 6 of you are angry apes out there. It's hard to stop that, and it takes a very responsible and honorable man or woman to be able to stop that escalation of force.
That's true. Well, man, we've had a wide gamut of conversation tonight.
Heck yeah. These are the days I like. Go in without too tight of a schedule and just kind of be able to go.
Right. Well, we're coming down to the end of the show. Who should we set up our raid to tonight? Who we got on?
Patriot V's on. Oh wait.
Yeah, let's raid us.
I don't know, man. Only people I got on is Unbroken Vet, who we just raided the week before last.
Yeah.
Actually, last week we raided B. Appreciate that for everybody who hung around. That was a lot of fun streaming IL too. I missed that game. You got 874 people you follow. You tell me who's online.
Let's see. I've got Country Grip, American Truck Sim streamer, pretty cool dude. Let's Comic Crazy 3, pretty cool guy. Flight Sim streamer.
You got any veterans on with say 10 or less viewers?
I got American Pride Gaming with 9.
Hit him up. Let's do that.
All right, let's do that.
He was a first-time chatter last week.
See.
Thanks everybody for checking in. Sorry we started a little bit late. Half that was on me. The other half was on Cowboy because he has a new addiction.
Yeah, that's that's exactly what it is. I appreciate everybody coming out to watch us tonight. We've had a great stream, a great time with you guys, and we'll continue to have them going forward. But in the meantime, just remember, you can't change the world, but you can change the world around you.
So don't talk about it, be about it.
Have a good night, guys.
See you guys.
I can't take my Silverado down from Roseby East to ride.
Patriot